Commander Elias Ward had seen many strange things in his years working on Erevan's Halo. The station was the largest neutral trade hub in this sector, a meeting place for dozens of alien races. He had witnessed traders with skin that shimmered, like glass, diplomats who spoke in sense instead of words, and soldiers carrying weapons that hummed like deep ocean currents. But nothing had prepared him for the sight of a Violari warship docking at the station. The Violari Empire was a mystery. To most of the galaxy, they were ancient, proud, and fiercely protective of their borders. Most species only heard rumors about them, stories of crystalline cities and rulers who could see into your thoughts with a single glance. Humans had only encountered them, twice before, and both times the meetings had been tense. The Violari did not often travel beyond their territory, and their leaders almost never appeared in person, which was why the entire station froze when word spread. The Violari Queen herself was on board. Elias had just finished his morning tea when the station's comm system lit up with a direct summons. Commander Elias Ward, report to Docking Bay 12. Priority, immediate. Docking Bay 12 was the most secure part of the station, reserved for high-level visitors. Elias frowned. He was a linguist and cultural liaison, not a soldier. Why would they want him? Still, he straightened his uniform and made his way there, his mind racing with possibilities. When he arrived, the atmosphere was tense. Station security officers stood rigid at their posts, and the air felt charged, as if everyone was holding their breath. At the far end of the docking platform, the Violari ship gleamed like a shard of night sky, its surface flowing with patterns of silver light. The ramp lowered slowly, and a group of tall, elegant figures stepped out. They wore robes that shifted colors with every movement, and their faces were calm yet unreadable. At the center of the group walked a woman unlike anyone Elias had ever seen. Her presence was impossible to ignore. She was tall, her silver white, hair braided in a style that looked older than human civilization. Her eyes, glowing like molten moonlight, locked onto him the moment she entered the bay. She moved with the grace of someone who had never been unsure of a single step in her life. The station commander bowed deeply. Your Majesty, welcome to Erevan's Halo. We are honored. The Queen raised one hand, silencing him without a word. She never looked at the commander. Her gaze stayed fixed on Elias. You are Elias Ward, she said, her voice low but carrying easily across the bay. It was not a question. Elias cleared his throat. Yes, Your Majesty. She took a step closer, and he realized her guards were subtly shifting formation around her, keeping her within a protective circle but leaving a direct path between them. My daughter needs you. The words hit Elias like a shock. He blinked, certain he had misheard. I'm sorry? My daughter, she repeated. Princess Lyriel, she is dying. Elias opened his mouth, closed it again. He was not a doctor. Majesty, I'm not sure. You are the only one who can help her. Her tone was calm, but there was a steel edge beneath it. It was not the voice of someone making a request. It was the voice of someone stating an unchangeable fact. The station commander stepped forward cautiously. Perhaps, Majesty, you might— We will speak in private, the Queen interrupted, her eyes never leaving Elias. Now. They led him to a secured chamber aboard the Violari vessel. The walls shimmered faintly, as if made from living crystal. No one else entered with them, not even her guards. The door sealed behind her with a sound like a sigh. For a long moment she studied him in silence. Elias shifted uncomfortably under her gaze. He had been trained to hold eye contact with alien dignitaries, but the Violari Queen's stare felt different. It was as if she could see past his skin, past his thoughts, and into something deeper. Finally, she spoke, You have studied our people. Elias nodded cautiously. I've read everything humanity has on Vailari culture, yes. I also, you think in patterns we do not. You see connections others miss. That is why you are here. Elias shook, his head slightly. Majesty, with all respect, I'm a linguist, not a healer. If your daughter is ill, her illness is of the mind, the queen interrupted. Our healers cannot reach her. She is trapped in her own thoughts, lost in a place between waking and dreaming. Elias felt a flicker of curiosity despite himself. Like a coma? The queen tilted her head. A word without beauty, but close enough. We have tried to enter her mind through the royal link, our most sacred bond, but the connection fails. We believe her mind is locked. Something or someone has done this to her. Elias frowned. And you think I can? Only humans have the neural variants needed to bypass the block, she said simply. Our science confirms this. You will travel with me to Valoris Prime. There, you will enter the princess's mind and bring her back. Elias laughed softly, shaking his head. That's incredible, and probably impossible. The queen's expression did not change. Impossible is the language of those who have already failed. He met her gaze again and saw for the first time something beneath her calm. Not fear exactly, but a fierce, unyielding determination. She would not let her daughter die. She would not let him say no. Still, he tried. Majesty, even if, I agreed, your home world, humans aren't. No human has ever been allowed, she said, but you will be. That silenced him. An hour later, Elias found himself standing on the Vailari ship's observation deck, watching Erevan's halo grow smaller in the distance. The ship's engines made no sound, but the stars outside shifted with a speed that made his stomach knot. The Vailari did not travel like humans. They bent space as if it were a ribbon, folding the distance between worlds. He stood alone, thinking about the queen's words. He didn't know her daughter. He didn't know their technology. He wasn't even sure he believed their claim that only a human could help. But the way she had looked at him, it was as if she had already decided he was the answer. The sound of approaching footsteps pulled him from his thoughts. A tall Vailari male in deep blue robes bowed slightly. Commander Ward. I am Veyron, aide to the Queen. I have been instructed to provide you with details about the princess. Elias nodded. Please. As they walked the corridors, Veyron explained that Princess Lyriel had been a key figure in recent peace talks between rival Vailari factions. She was intelligent, deeply empathetic, and unusually open to ideas from other species. Some saw her as the future of the Empire. That made her many friends and many enemies. Her collapse had happened suddenly, the day after a critical summit. No poison, no injury. She simply stopped responding. The royal link showed only fragments of her thoughts, all tangled and fading. Elias listened carefully, his mind already making connections. If someone had done this deliberately, it wasn't just an attack on the princess. It was an attack on the entire balance of power in the galaxy. When Elias returned to his quarters, he found a sealed case on his bed. Inside was a sleek, silver device shaped like a circlet. Alongside it was a single note in flowing Vailari script. When you wear this, you will see what we see. Prepare yourself. He ran his fingers over the cool metal. He didn't know what waited for him on Valoris Prime. But deep down he knew one thing. The moment the Queen's eyes had locked on his life had changed. The Vailari cruiser was unlike any vessel Elias had ever seen. Human ships were built with straight lines, hard angles, and practical layouts. This ship felt alive. Its corridors curved like rivers, the walls glowing faintly as if they breathed light. The air was warm, filled with a faint floral scent that reminded Elias of a summer night back on Earth. Varen, the Queen's aide, guided him through the ship. The Vailari moved silently, almost gliding. Elias felt clumsy in comparison, his boots making dull thuds on the polished floor. "Your quarters are here," Varen said, stopping before a door that slid open without a sound. Inside, the room was spacious but simple. A bed shaped like a shallow bowl, shelves carved from crystal, and a large window showing the endless black of space. Elias stepped to the window, watching the stars. They didn't just move. They shifted in strange ways, as if the space between them was folding and stretching. He felt slightly dizzy. "How fast are we going?" he asked. Varen's lips curved in what might have been a small smile. "Faster than your people believe possible." Elias turned. "And how long until we reach Valaris Prime?" "By your measure, 3 days," Varen replied. "By ours, less than 1. Elias frowned. "That doesn't make—" Varen raised a hand. "Best not to think about it. Human minds are not shaped for the truth of our paths." The first day aboard was quiet. The Queen stayed in her private chambers, meeting only with her closest advisors. Elias spent hours with Vailari medics, who explained more about the princess's condition. They showed him brainwave charts, elegant patterns of light and sound, and pointed out the strange block that kept her consciousness trapped. "It is not a disease," one medic explained. "It is a barrier, and it does not belong to her mind." Elias studied the patterns carefully. There was a rhythm to them, almost like music with one wrong note repeated over and over. He didn't fully understand the science, but he recognized something, a pattern that didn't fit. He had seen something similar when decoding an alien trade dialect years ago, a flaw hidden inside beauty. That night, he lay awake, thinking about the princess. He had never met her, yet she was the reason he was hurtling through alien space. He wondered if she could sense him somehow, if she even knew someone was coming. On the second day, the Queen summoned him. Her private chamber was vast and filled, with slow-moving streams of light that floated in the air. They reminded Elias of fireflies, if fireflies could carry 1,000 years of memory in their glow. The Queen sat in a high-backed seat, her robe a deep violet that shimmered with silver. "Threads. You are adapting to the journey," she observed. Elias nodded. "The ship, it's different. Feels more like a place than a machine." She inclined her head. "It is both. Much like you will have to be both, yourself and something more, if you are to succeed." Elias hesitated, then asked, "Majesty, why me? Surely you have Vailari who could—" "We have tried," she interrupted. "And failed. The mind is a fortress. Ours are built to the same design. Yours are not. You can see doors where we see only walls." Her eyes softened slightly. "And there is another reason." Elias leaned forward. "Which is?" She was silent for a moment. "My daughter has always been curious about your kind. She once told me that humans think in colors no other species can see. I believe she would trust you." The words left Elias unsettled. Trust was a heavy thing when it came from someone you had never met. Later that day, Elias joined Varen for a meal in the ship's dining hall. The food was unlike anything he'd tasted before, translucent fruits that melted on the tongue, bread that seemed to hum softly when broken, and a clear drink that tasted of cool rain. While they ate, Varen lowered his voice. "You should know, not all in the Vailari court will welcome you. Some already speak against the Queen's decision to bring you. They will see your presence as a weakness. or an insult? Elias raised an eyebrow. And if I fail? Varen's expression didn't change. Then the princess dies, and the factions that wish for war will have their excuse. The words sat heavy in Elias's mind. This wasn't just about saving one person. If he failed, it could spark a conflict that would burn across the stars. They were half a day from Valaris Prime when the warning came. Elias was in his quarters when the ship's lights flickered. A low hum passed through the walls, followed by the sound of Vailari voices speaking quickly in their musical language. Moments later, Varen appeared at his door, his expression tight. "We have received a transmission," he said. It was unmarked, but the encryption was unusual. Elias followed him to the comm room, where a single message hovered in the air, written in jagged Vailari script. Elias couldn't read it, but he could feel the threat in its shape. "What does it say?" Elias asked. Varen's voice was flat. "It says, the human must not reach the capital." Before Elias could speak, the queen entered. She read the message once, then gestured for it to be erased. "We will continue," she said firmly. "There are those who fear what you might uncover. Let them." Her tone left no room for argument. The last hours of the journey passed in a tense silence. The Vailari crew kept their eyes sharp, scanning the star field as if expecting an attack. Elias felt the weight of invisible eyes on him, the presence of enemies he couldn't see. Then, without warning, the view outside changed. One moment, they were in the endless black of space. The next, they were gliding above a world of breathtaking beauty. Valaris Prime was a jewel of light and crystal. Towers rose from the surface like frozen waterfalls, catching the sun and scattering rainbows across the clouds. Rivers of silver water cut through emerald plains, and the sky itself shimmered with drifting bands of color. Elias stood at the viewing deck, stunned. "It's unreal." Varen's voice was soft. "It is home." The ship descended toward the capital. A vast city of spires and bridges, floating gardens, and streets paved with glass. As they landed, Elias noticed the people gathered at the edge of the platform. They were tall and graceful, their robes shifting colors like oil on water. Some looked at him with open curiosity. Others turned away. The queen led him through the capital, her guards forming a protective shield around them. They passed through grand halls lined with carvings that seemed to move when viewed from the corner of the eye. The air was filled with the sound of distant chimes. Finally, they reached a set of tall doors carved with symbols Elias didn't recognize. The queen paused before them. "Beyond this," she said, "is the healing chamber. You will see my daughter." She placed her hand on the door. It opened slowly, revealing a room bathed in soft blue light. At its center was a platform of smooth crystal. Upon it lay the princess. Elias had expected a fragile, weakened figure. But Princess Lyriel looked whole. Her skin glowed faintly, her silver hair spilling like water around her. Her eyes were open, but they did not see. She stared upward as if watching something far away. "She breathes. Her heart beats," the queen said quietly. "But she is not here." Elias stepped closer, feeling a strange pull in his mind, as if her thoughts were brushing against his. He glanced at the small circlet resting near her head. "That's the interface?" he asked. The queen nodded. "It will link your mind to hers. You must find her and lead her back." Elias reached out, touching the cold metal. He had no idea what waited for him inside the mind of an alien princess. But as the queen's glowing eyes met his again, he felt something settle inside him. Failure was not an option. The healing chamber was so quiet that Elias could hear his own breathing. The soft blue glow made the air feel heavy, as if time moved slower here. Princess Lyriel lay still on the crystal platform, her chest rising and falling in steady rhythm, but her mind was somewhere else entirely. Elias stood beside her, the silver circlet in his hands. It was lighter than it looked, almost delicate, with tiny patterns etched along its surface. They seemed to shift when he turned it, like water ripples changing with the light. The Queen's voice broke the silence. Once the link begins, there is no safe pause. You must keep moving. If you lose yourself, my guards will break the connection, but you may not return the same. Not the most comforting warning. Elias swallowed hard. And if I succeed? The Queen's glowing eyes softened slightly. Then my daughter lives, and the galaxy changes. No pressure. Veyren stepped forward, carrying a second circlet. This one will rest on the princess. The devices will connect your minds. He placed it gently on Lyriel's head, the silver blending almost perfectly with her hair. Elias hesitated. I have no training in mind diving. You have something better, the Queen said simply. A human mind. Veyren gestured, for him to sit on a low seat beside the platform. When you are ready, place it on your head. Elias sat, holding the circlet for a moment longer. He thought about his years of studying alien languages, of finding meaning in patterns other people missed. This was just another kind of puzzle, wasn't it? He placed the circlet on his head. The world shifted instantly. It wasn't like falling asleep. It wasn't like dreaming. One moment he was in the healing chamber. The next he was standing in a vast, open space that felt both endless and enclosed at the same time. The ground beneath his feet was smooth and reflective, like black glass. Above, the sky swirled with colors that moved too fast to follow. Deep blues bleeding into gold, streaks of violet twisting into silver. He turned slowly. The place was silent, except for a faint sound in the distance, like the echo of footsteps, far away. Lyriel, he called. His voice carried strangely, stretching and bending as if the air itself was curious about the sound. No answer. Elias started walking toward the sound. The ground rippled slightly under his steps, as if reacting to him. The reflections showed not just his own image, but flashes of things he didn't recognize. A garden of crystal flowers, a hall filled with floating lights, a young Vailari girl laughing. He was seeing her memories. The echoes grew louder, but as he walked, the space around him began to change. Black glass gave way to twisting corridors made of light, their walls shifting like liquid. Every turn seemed to lead deeper into something not meant to be explored by strangers. Elias reached an open chamber. At its center stood a tall, crystalline structure, pulsing with a faint white glow. He felt drawn to it, but as he stepped closer, a shadow moved in the corner of his vision. He turned and froze. A figure stood at the edge of the chamber. It was tall, its shape vaguely Vailari, but wrong. Its body was made of sharp, jagged shards, and its eyes were pits of shifting darkness. It didn't speak. It simply raised one hand, and the air between them twisted. A wave of pressure slammed into Elias, knocking him back. He hit the ground hard, but instead of pain, there was only a strange cold that sank into his thoughts. Images flashed in his mind, whispers in a language he couldn't understand, memories that weren't his. The figure began to move toward him, its steps slow but deliberate. Each step seemed to make the space around them darker, the colors in the sky fading. Elias forced himself up. "You're not her," the figure tilted its head, almost curious. Then its voice came, deep, distorted, layered with too many echoes. "Leave!" Elias took a step forward. "Not without her." The shadow figure extended its hand again, but this time Elias was ready. He focused on the images he had seen in the reflections. The garden of crystal flowers, the floating lights, the sound of Lyriel's laughter. He pushed them forward in his mind, and the air shimmered between them. The figure paused. For just a moment. Its shape flickered, and Elias saw a door appear in the far wall of the chamber. He ran for it. The door opened into another space entirely, a wide courtyard under a sky of pale gold. Crystal trees grew here, their branches heavy with glowing blossoms. In the center was a fountain, its water rising in impossible shapes before falling back in slow motion. Sitting beside the fountain was a young woman. Her silver hair shimmered in the strange light, and her eyes, the same molten glow as the queen's, were fixed on the water. She looked almost peaceful, but there was something in her posture, stillness, that didn't belong to the living. "Lyriel?" Elias asked, stepping closer. She turned her head slowly. When her gaze met his, he felt a rush of warmth, and then, just as quickly, a wall between them. "You're not supposed to be here," she said quietly. "I'm here to help you," he replied. Her eyes narrowed. "That's what it said too." Elias knelt beside her. "Who?" She didn't answer, but glanced toward the edge of the courtyard. Elias followed her gaze and saw the shadow figure watching them from the distance, unmoving. "It told me it would keep me safe," Lyriel said softly. "It built this place. But the doors keep closing. I can't see the gardens anymore, or the city, only this courtyard." Elias's mind worked quickly. Whoever, or whatever, the figure was, it had convinced her to stay here, but she didn't sound convinced anymore. "You can leave," he said. "I can take you." Her expression changed. Not hope, but fear. "If I leave, it will follow. It says the world outside is full of lies." Elias shook his head. "That's how cages work. They tell you the outside is dangerous, so you never try the door." For a moment, she looked at him like she wanted to believe him, but then the shadow figure took a single step forward, and the golden sky dimmed. Elias felt the change immediately, the space around them tightening, the air becoming heavy. "We don't have much time," he said. "I need you to trust me." She hesitated. "Why you? You're not Vailari." "Exactly," he said. "Whatever that thing is, it knows how to stop your people. But me? I'm something it doesn't understand." That made her pause. Then very slowly, she reached out her hand. Elias took it. The world shattered. He gasped, jerking upright in the healing chamber. His heart was pounding, his skin damp with sweat. The queen was standing over him, her expression unreadable. "What happened?" she asked. Elias glanced at Lyriel. She was still lying on the platform, her eyes open but distant. "I found her," he said. "But she's not alone in there. Something built a prison, and it doesn't want her to leave." The queen's gaze hardened. "Can you break it?" Elias looked at the circlet in his hands. He thought of the shadow figure, the way it had tried to push him out. "I can try, but next time, it's going to fight harder." Elias didn't sleep that night. The image of the shadow figure stayed with him. Those empty eyes, that cold voice. He could still feel the weight of its presence, pressing against his thoughts. It wasn't just guarding Lyriel, it was protecting something else. By morning, the queen had summoned him to a high chamber in the palace. The room's walls shimmered like liquid crystal, and the air was filled with the soft hum of energy. 6 Vailari stood in a circle, each wearing robes marked with silver threads. Their eyes glowed faintly. "These are my mind adepts," the queen said. "They will prepare you for what you must face." One of the adepts, an elder with hair like spun glass, stepped forward. "You walked into her mind unshielded. That was reckless, but it also means you have strength we can shape." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Shape how?" The elder gestured for him to join the circle. "We will teach you emotion keys." The training was unlike anything Elias had ever done. The adepts explained that Velari minds could turn emotions into tools. If the emotion was strong and pure enough, a calm memory could become a shield. A memory of joy could become a light. Even stubbornness could be shaped into a force that pushed back against mental control. "Human minds," one adept said, "are more fluid than ours. You can bend your emotions in ways we cannot. Use that." For hours, Elias was guided through exercises. They asked him to remember moments from his life. The thrill of decoding his first alien language, the comfort of his grandmother's stories, the determination that had kept him alive during his first mission in deep space. Each memory was shaped into something tangible within his mind. At first, nothing happened. But slowly he began to see it. Colors and shapes forming when he focused. His determination became a steady wall of deep red. His curiosity became a glowing blue thread that could guide him through confusion. His compassion became a golden warmth that seemed to push back the cold. The adepts nodded in approval. "These are your keys," the elder said. "Carry them. Well, the labyrinth will twist your mind. These will keep you whole." That night, Elias sat alone in his chamber, looking at the circlet on the table. He knew the next time he went into Lyriel's mind, there would be no testing the waters. He would have to fight through, all the way to the end. Varen entered quietly. "The Queen has ordered every precaution. But you must know, if you fail tomorrow, the court will not give you another chance." Elias gave a tired smile. "Good thing I don't plan to fail." The next morning, the healing chamber was ready. Lyriel lay in the same still position, her silver hair fanned out around her. The Queen stood at her side, her face calm but her eyes burning with something fierce. "You are about to walk into a trap," she said. "Do not meet it with anger alone. Meet it with what makes you human." Elias nodded. "Understood." He placed the circlet on his head. The shift came faster this time. The black glass ground and swirling skies appeared around him in an instant. But now, Elias didn't feel lost. The emotion keys were warm in his mind, ready to be used. The labyrinth was different now. The corridors twisted tighter, the walls pulsing with a faint red light. It felt like the shadow figure knew he was coming. Elias moved quickly, using his curiosity key, the glowing blue thread, to find hidden paths. The thread led him to places he hadn't seen before. Memory fragments of Lyriel's childhood, moments of joy and peace. But the edges of these memories were cracked, as if something was eating away at them. Then he heard it, the deep, distorted voice. "You should not have returned." The shadow figure appeared ahead, its jagged form larger than before. It stepped into his path, and the space around them darkened. Elias didn't stop. "I'm not leaving without her." The figure's voice sharpened. "She is safe here. Outside she will be broken." Elias stepped closer, feeling the golden warmth of his compassion key rise inside him. "She's already broken in here. You just don't want to let her go." The figure moved, faster than before. Shards of black crystal shot toward Elias, but he raised his determination key, the deep red wall, and they shattered harmlessly. The figure paused, clearly not expecting resistance. Elias took the chance to push past it, following the blue thread deeper into the labyrinth. The corridors twisted into impossible angles, but Elias didn't let himself slow down. He could feel the figure following, the air growing colder. Finally, he reached a tall, crystal gate. Behind it, he could see the golden courtyard where Lyriel had been before. He stepped through. Lyriel was there, sitting by the fountain again. But this time she looked faded, as if she had been waiting too long. Her eyes widened when she saw him. "You came back." Elias knelt in front of her. I said I would. We're leaving. She shook her head. It's stronger now. If we try, it will fail, Elias said firmly, because this time I'm ready. The shadow figure appeared at the courtyard's edge, its form crackling with dark energy. The sky above them turned black, streaked with red lightning. The fountain's water froze in midair. Elias stood, keeping himself between Lyriel and the figure. He held the golden warmth of compassion in his mind, letting it spread out like a shield. The figure's voice was colder than ever. You think your human tricks can change her fate? Elias smirked. Not tricks, choices. The figure lunged. Elias met it head-on, the red wall of determination slamming into its jagged body. The impact sent cracks running through its form. It screamed, a sound like metal tearing, and the labyrinth shook. Lyriel gasped. It's weakening! Elias grabbed her hand. Now! They ran, the corridors breaking apart around them. Memories spilled out of the walls, bursts of light showing moments of Lyriel's life. The shadow figure followed, but each time it came close, Elias used his keys, blue to find the path, red to block attacks, gold to keep their minds from being pulled apart. Finally, they reached a blinding white light at the labyrinth's end. Elias could feel the pull of the real world beyond it. The figure roared one last time, hurling itself forward. Elias turned, throwing everything he had into one final push. Every memory, every emotion, every stubborn human thought that refused to let go. The light swallowed them. Elias gasped awake, the circlet slipping from his head. Lyriel was still lying on the platform, but then her fingers twitched. Her eyes blinked, and for the first time, they focused. Mother, she whispered. The queen stepped forward, her voice trembling just slightly. I am here, child. Lyriel's gaze shifted to Elias. You pulled me out. Elias smiled faintly. Told you I would. The sky above Kareth's royal palace turned from soft orange to deep purple as the alien sun dipped below the crystal horizon. Michael stood at the edge of the queen's private garden, hands resting on the railing, staring at the strange stars, now glowing overhead. Somewhere up there, Earth was spinning quietly, far away from this alien world and all its politics. But Michael knew he could not go home yet. Not now. Not when everything was about to change. The queen's daughter, Princess Alara, was safe inside the palace, recovering from the near-fatal poisoning. Her skin had regained its bright, iridescent color. Her laughter, once faint and shaky, now echoed softly through the halls. Michael had been there every day, guiding her through exercises, making her smile with earth jokes she didn't fully understand. But despite her recovery, danger still lingered. The conspirators who had poisoned Alara had not vanished. The queens. Spies had caught some, but whispers of rebellion spread like wildfire. The palace guards were on constant alert. Trust was rare, and every glance carried suspicion. Michael felt the weight of it. He was no soldier, no politician. But somehow, he had become part of a royal power struggle on a planet he barely understood. That evening, the queen summoned him to the throne room. The massive chamber was lit by floating crystal orbs, casting soft light over silver floors. The queen sat tall and regal, her crown shaped like woven starlight. Alara stood beside her, wearing a pale green gown, her eyes filled with warmth when she saw Michael. Michael of Earth, the queen began, her voice carrying the calm power of a ruler who had faced both peace and war. The danger is not over. My enemies know my daughter lives because of you. They will try again. They will try harder. Michael stepped forward slowly. Then we stop them. We protect her. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. You have already done more than I could have asked. But this is no longer just about saving her life. This is about saving my people. Michael's brows drew together. What do you mean? Elara glanced at her mother, then back at him. The rebellion believes my mother is unfit to rule. They say she is too focused on peace, too weak to defend our world. They think they can take the throne. And, the Queen added, they think killing my daughter will break me completely. Michael's hands curled into fists. So what do you need me to do? The Queen leaned forward slightly. Not fight them. Lead them. He froze. Lead them? I don't understand. They already see you as different. You are not Carethian. So you do not belong to any faction. You are the one who brought my daughter back from the edge of death. To them, you are proof that outsiders can make change. I want you to go to them, not as an enemy, but as a bridge. Convince them that my rule is not weakness. Michael stared at her in shock. You want me to walk into the middle of a rebellion, unarmed? Elara stepped closer, her voice softer. You would not be alone. I will go with you. If they see me, alive and standing beside you, they may believe. And if they kill us... She trailed off, her eyes locking with his. Michael swallowed. Hard. Then it's over. The Queen's gaze was steady. This is your choice, Michael. You could stay here in safety, or I can arrange your passage back to Earth tonight. No one would blame you. That night, Michael didn't sleep. He walked the palace corridors, his thoughts a storm. Earth was calling him. A quiet life, no alien politics, no danger. But every time he thought of leaving, he saw Elara's smile, and the memory of the day she had nearly died. By dawn, his mind was made up. The journey to the rebels' stronghold was tense. Michael, Elara, and a small escort traveled in an unmarked skimmer across the wide crystal plains. The sky was a pale blue, streaked with thin silver clouds. As they approached the jagged cliffs, shadowy figures emerged from the rocks. Their weapons were aimed, their postures rigid. A tall rebel leader stepped forward. His armor was blackened. From years of battle, his eyes sharp and suspicious. "Why are you here?" he demanded. Michael took a slow breath. "To talk." The man's gaze shifted to Elara, who stood proudly at Michael's side. A murmur went through the crowd. Some lowered their weapons, but others tightened their grip. "She should be dead," the rebel leader said coldly. "And you, Earth, man, should have stayed out of our affairs." "Maybe," Michael replied, "but I didn't. And now I'm here because killing her won't fix what's wrong. You think the Queen's peace is weakness. I think it's the only thing keeping your world from tearing itself apart." The leader's expression hardened. Words are easy. Michael stepped closer, his voice firm. "Then let me prove it. If you want strength, I'll show you strength, not with war, but with unity. If we stand together, no outside enemy will ever defeat us. But if you kill her," he gestured to Elara, "you kill your future." Silence followed. The rebels looked between each other, tension thick in the air. Finally, the leader spoke again, his tone less sharp. "You speak boldly for someone who is not of this world." Michael met his eyes. "Maybe that's why you should listen." It took hours of tense discussion, but by the time the sun dipped low again, an agreement had been reached. The rebels would end their assassination attempts and meet with the Queen under a truce. Back in the palace, the Queen received them both with quiet relief. "You have done what I could not," she told Michael. "You have given us a chance at peace." Michael smiled faintly. "All I did was talk." Elara shook her head. "No, you believed. And sometimes that's harder than fighting." As the stars filled the alien night sky, Michael realized something. Earth was far away, but he had found a new home here. Not because he had to stay, but because he wanted to. And when Ailara's eyes met his, warm and full of unspoken gratitude, he knew the Queen had been right from the start. Her daughter needed him, and maybe he needed her too.